In the Economic War Room, we are a solutions program. Frank, you've got solutions in your book, The Indictment, and here's a quote. It says, "The indictment also enumerates 20 specific actions that are required to punish the perpetrators of war crimes against America and humanity and defeat those likely in the offing." Just give us a couple examples.
The single most important one, I think by far, Kevin, is one we sort of touched on a moment ago, and that is this practice by the Chinese Communist Party of what they describe as elite capture. If we don't root out those who are playing for the other team, who are today, again, as a result of this unrestricted warfare for decades, pursuing the compromise, the suborning, the capture, if you will, of leaders of our financial sector, of businesses more generally, the media, academia, the culture, Hollywood, and so on, and not least, of course, our government, as you say, on both sides of the aisle, we're doomed. Especially if we do find ourselves in a shooting war. It's just unimaginable that you've got an active cadre of people in all these leadership positions who are, helping defeat us. So that's where this all starts.
Hey, let's just stop there for a second. I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, okay, our military is worried about pronouns, whether they say he or she or they or them. They're worried about drag queen story hours. And you got a DA in New York named Bragg going against the President Trump, Bragg versus Trump, which is funny in itself, but sad. Because they're worried about how he characterized business expenses for signing a non-disclosure agreement with another individual, and they made 34 counts of this. And while they're doing that, we see money going into, I gotta say it, into the White House, into Hunter Biden and his father's vice president, who's the big guy. We see the Chinese are literally buying off of our politicians, while our DAs and the politicization of the intelligence community, the law enforcement community, they're all focused on minor things like whether or not the NDA was properly reported on tax forms or something.
Right. Well, our mutual friend, Steve Bannon, who, by the way, is the publisher of this book with his War Room Books imprint, as well as the author of a foreword for the book, I'm pleased to say, is fond of pointing out, this is the real indictment. All that stuff going on in New York and what's in the offing in Florida and what's probably coming out of some special counsel in Washington is a distraction. It is political warfare against Donald Trump, for sure, and arguably against our country. And, oh, by the way, much of it's being brought to you by, I argue, Marxists, fellow travelers of the Chinese Communist Party, or people in the person of Joe Biden, as you say, who's been not just compromised by the CCP, but captured by them. And there's abundant evidence of that. The point is that the real indictment, the thing that we have got to be focused on, because as you said in your introduction, Kevin, this isn't just about trying to address what they've already done. This is about trying to deter, to prevent, to minimize the effects, if God forbid we can't deter, what they have in mind for us next. And look, I know that this is a pretty gloomy conversation on a lot of different levels, but I really do want to emphasize the hope that I think people will find in seeing that there are practical steps, starting with the elite capture piece. But also, for heaven's sakes, stopping the financing of our mortal enemy. And Kevin, I cannot say enough about the work that you've been doing, both the educational piece of it in your War Room programs, but also this National Security Investment Consultants Institute is one of the greatest things I know of. And I couldn't be more appreciative of your leadership. I know this has been a long time, bringing it to fruition. But now with Liberty University's enabling and horsepower, you've really got something that could enable every single American investor to find out not only whether their money is in China, and oh, by the way, if that shooting war begins, forget about it, we're getting it back. But you can also find investment managers and consultants who can help ensure that your money is being invested in accordance with your values, patriotically, among other things. So God bless you for that.